but they don't understand all the reasons for relationship between a woman or a man. They talk about it, but they really don't know all of the qualities that makes a love grow. They're green with envy, speculate and hate. Negative thoughts don't control my fate. You know it might not be right for the world. Oh no, oh no. You know it might not be right for the world. Well, 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 well. Oh no, might not be right, but it's all right for this girl. You know it might not be right, but it's all right for this girl.
Hello and welcome to a conversation with Ruthie Foster. I'm your host, Eric Miller. This is part of the Pods and Sods Network. I want to thank you first off for clicking the download button or the subscribe button or whatever series of buttons you click in order to find this episode. It's always super appreciated. It was somewhat new to Ruthie's music. She's one of those names that I've seen around for a good while, kind of on the independent singer-songwriter, almost folky kind of scene. But I recently, sort of gave her a listen actively, right? And boy, I wish I had done it sooner. In particular, there's a song called Phenomenal Woman that just blew me away. I've been diving into her work since that time, and I had the pleasure to chat with her. So we've talked about her sort of journey in life through, discovery of music. She's sort of a traditional gospel blues singer from Texas, strong voice, incredible voice. And her songwriting skills are growing over time. And she's got a new record in the works, which we, sort of touch on a little bit. But this is kind of the Ruthie Foster story. If you're not familiar, I encourage you to sit back and enjoy this, sort of departure from the typical classic rock kind of guests that I have. But that's one of the beautiful things about doing these Pods and Sods episodes is, the style of music and the content that we cover is so broad. So, I was thrilled to have an avenue to chat with her and explore her career in music. So hopefully you will enjoy this as much as I enjoyed recording it. So without any further ado, Miss Ruthie Foster.
Remember me, remember me. Oh, Lord, remember me, when these chains get broken, set my body free. Oh, Lord, remember me.
Gives me great pleasure to welcome Miss Ruthie Foster. Welcome, Ruthie.
Good morning. Hi. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to talk with me about your career. I have to confess that I'm somewhat of a new fan, or I've discovered your music recently, I should say. I've sort of always been aware of your presence, but I never really checked it out, and I've been remiss because now I'm a huge fan. And I'm sort of catching up on lost time. And there's one song in particular that just absolutely floored me and hooked my ear, and I do want to talk about that, and we'll get into it. But kind of going back to the beginning, if we could, as I understand it, you're sort of born and raised in Texas, and began singing, I guess, in the church. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe how you discovered music as a kid?
Yeah, I grew up in the central part of Texas, around in between. It's the area between Austin, Dallas, and Houston, and there's a spot right in the middle, which is called the Brazos Valley. So I grew up right on the river in Cotton Country, and listened to a lot of gospel music because a lot of my family were gospel singers, and some still are.
Okay.
So the gospel was kind of a rite of passage for me and the rest of my family, my cousins and all. But I did love my blues music too. My dad was a huge blues fan,
Okay.
and he would make tapes for me of Lightning Hopkins, whose family still lives in parts of Houston. And he'd heard him play a lot when he used to go see music. And, just a lot of blues and even soul music, like in Tina Turner. My dad has bootleg tapes of some of the shows that he and my mom used to go to.
Okay.
Yeah, so, music was a huge part of our family, whether we were in church or just everyday life.
Yeah, in the gospel sense, it's very, and I didn't grow up in that, so what I understand, it's very part of tradition, right? It's part of, it's very cultural.
Yeah, very much so. I grew up with my grandmother, my grandfather,
Right.
Big Mama and Papa, I called them. So my mom worked a lot, so me and my brother and my baby sister spent a lot of time with my grandparents and all of my 22 cousins. I grew up around a lot of family.
Wow.
So, it's very fortunate. You just don't see a lot of that these days. So I actually credit a lot of my girl cousins for getting me into singing and wanting to sing, because they sang together all the time. And my mother and her sister used to sing in church. They used to do Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Marie Knight duets in church all the time. So I grew up with that inset, that was my introduction to music and how it can move you.
Right.
It wasn't just a religious thing for me. It was more of a spiritual side, and how that you really can move people with just a voice.
Right.
And then I discovered the guitar and piano shortly after that. I was about 11, maybe 12 years old.
Okay. Piano first, maybe?
Yeah, because that's the gospel instrument. My
Right,
grandmother
right.
would tell me, start with the gospel instrument. And it was really a good choice, too, because I went on to study music later and found out that knowing the piano was a big plus, because all instruments are based off of that. So I had no problem learning any other instrument, because I could play piano by the time I got to study music.
Right.
So it was a piano first. I played that throughout regions of Texas, and I played guitar shortly after that. My piano teacher there in my little town, Gauze, in Central Texas, her husband was a guitar player, so
Right.
he taught me guitar just after my piano lessons. So I grew up with both instruments.
Nice. Did you start writing at that time? Did you have ambition to be a performer sort of professionally?
I was too shy to really want to sing in front of people. I was pretty, real small and short, and I had all of these, tall, gorgeous, talented cousins around me. I kind of stayed in their shadow for quite a few years, my early teen years.
Right.
So singing in front of people was that came later, but being an instrumentalist, that was first for me. As an accompanist, that I really got into that. The writing part, I was a huge fan of writers like Maya Angelou and Gwendolyn Brooks and Nikki Giovanni. I love poetry. So that's where my writing started, really. And then as I transferred that into the music, I started writing about 14, 15 years old. And, eventually got my courage up to sing in front of people. And, I've been doing that since, I guess.
Nice. It's funny that you talk about, the courage, because it's such a cultural thing, right? That it seems almost natural to be, to raise your voice in song, and then to be shy in that environment that's interesting. You know what I mean? It seems,
yeah, but it was a small town, and I had a lot of encouragement
right.
through the church, and these people were my family and church members, so I had that nurturing environment, I guess is
Right.
basically what it is, to really just kind of let me slowly develop in my own time I didn't start out singing. I started out doing the welcome introduction in our church. It was about standing up in front of people.
Right.
And my grandmother was key in getting me to do that first.
Nice. I think I read somewhere along the line that your first concert was Prince, 1999.
Yeah, that was the first concert I ever went to go see live. Yeah.
That didn't make you want to take like a right turn and come home and say, "Hey, Mom, I heard this song called Dirty Mind," and like that didn't That
came later. I was actually in college by the time that happened. I was
Okay.
in school of music and studying music. I, growing up in a small town, there was an opportunity to go see live, concerts. Plus, I worked. My mother was when my mother got really sick. It was my brother and myself. We worked. I went around different churches and I sang, and that's how we helped provide for the family. And so I did that throughout my high school years, and went on to study music later in Waco. And that's when I started to go out to see concerts. I saw Prince much later.
Okay. It's interesting, to hear influences like that, because that's kind of a common thing with musicians. They kind of grow up with, what their family exposes them to, and then at a point, the world becomes infinitely larger when you start seeing all these other things. And it sounds like for you that was partly college.
Yeah, it was when it came to actually performing in front of people, because that's something that it is taught. I went to a school where I studied commercial music, and so you were put in a jazz band and in front of a big band. You had country bands and jazz ensemble. So I had a chance to hone my skills as a vocalist and as a front person through college, and that was a great experience and education, and not just learning how to read and how to play different instruments, even if we wanted to,
right,
but how to perform and how to make a dynamic show, really. And I still use a lot of those techniques on the road today.
No doubt. And that sort of led you to, I guess, a role in the Navy. So you joined the Navy and toured as part of, I guess, a group they have called Pride?
Yeah, after I graduated the music college, I realized I had spent a lot of my young years pretty much enveloped by music, and I needed a way to talk to people that didn't have anything to do with music. So I actually quit music for about a year, and I joined the Navy and moved to I was stationed in San Diego,
right,
and I worked around helicopters. I worked at a helicopter squadron as electronics mate, basically, learning how to put together SH-2 sea sprays,
right,
helicopters. And I did that for a year, and I really enjoyed it. I got to know a lot of really good friends I'm still in touch with today. But I decided I wanted to go back to music because that was my true love. It was nice to take that time off, but I really wanted to do that. I auditioned for the Navy band, and I couldn't believe it, but I did get in. It's very hard to get into that band when you're in the service, but you're doing something else.
right.
But yeah, I went into the Navy band and was stationed in Charleston, South Carolina, with the Navy band Pride as their lead singer. And we were a funk band for the most part.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a couple of horns. It was about 15, maybe 8 pieces at first, but we had horns and keyboards, and it was a full band. And we had fun playing around different schools and special activities that were throughout the Southeast in the United States. We did about 3 Mardi Gras, those parades, and played around New Orleans. I got a chance to play in Iceland and all of these different places. So it was a real education, another different type of education with learning how to tour in music.
Yeah, that must have sort of cemented your, path to becoming a troubadour, if you will, right? So now you're hitting the road literally.
Mhm. Yeah, literally in a band, with a band, 7, 8 pieces, all guys, and pull in a trailer in a 15-passenger van. And so that was my first experience with real touring. And when we weren't touring, we were practicing, we were rehearsing.
Right.
So we were tight, and one of the premier bands in that particular region. I think there were maybe 15 bands around the world, from Italy to Charleston. Treasure Island had a band. Wherever there was a naval station, they had a band. But we were the premier band for the Southeast.
Whoa, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Whoa, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let me tell you that I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Stayed on freedom. I'm walking and talking with my mind. Stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. You know I'm singing and praying with my mind. Stayed on freedom. I'm singing and praying with my mind. Stayed on freedom. I'm singing and praying with my mind. Stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh yes, yes I am. Yes. Come on now. Yes, I am. Oh, don't you know, teaching and preaching with my mind. Stay on freedom. You know I'm teaching and preaching with my mind. Stayed on freedom. I'm teaching and preaching with my mind. Stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, you know there ain't no harm to keep your mind. Stayed on freedom. No, there ain't no harm to keep your mind. Stayed on freedom. There ain't no harm to keep your mind. Stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
I guess your tenure in the Navy kind of comes to a close, and there's a period where I guess you live in New York, New Jersey, and the details. I kind of want to ask about the details, but you were sort of making a living as a singer-songwriter, and you got courted by a major label, I think. Can you talk about that period or that transition from the Navy to what the deal was with Atlantic?
Yeah, while I was stationed in Charleston, I decided to get out of the Navy and go into real life with, just learning how to play and book myself into shows around Charleston. And someone from Atlantic Records heard a demo tape while he was on vacation in Charleston. And I had my phone number on there, and so he went back to New York, and he called me from a cassette tape that he found, and wanted to hear me live. He thought maybe it was somehow it was put together by someone else, but he wanted to hear me live, so I flew to go play for him.
Is this
and I got signed.
I'm sorry, is this like the early 90s? Is this like the top of the...
Yeah, I got out in 90. I was out of the military in 90, and this was that summer. I got out in May of 90, and he was on vacation that summer. And that's when we connected. Craig Kalman is his name. He's still with Atlantic, in fact. Yeah, so I played for Craig, and he asked if I would be willing to move to New York. He wanted to sign me, but he wanted me to be there.
Right.
I decided, that's an opportunity to be in New York and play and sing and do all these things I've wanted to do since I was 11 years old. So I moved to New York. Actually moved to New Jersey because it just made sense. It was cheaper and close enough, So I lived in Passaic, and I worked in New York as a singer-songwriter for 3 years. Learning how to hone my songwriter skills, which was another education.
Right.
And playing around Bleecker Street. I played just about every little club there. And when I wasn't in the little clubs, I was in the big clubs, sitting in. I sat in with Paul Schaefer all the time. Whenever they would, he and these guys would come over. Jimmy Vivino's the band leader for
Conan.
For Conan. Jimmy's an old friend of mine. So we all knew each other. So that was a great time in my life and in my career. I didn't really release anything because I had a great lawyer. I'll put it that way. Who just basically told me this is your opportunity to really learn how to work your craft and use that. If you don't record anything, there's nothing in your contract that says you have to. So just have a good time and learn how to be a songwriter and a performer, and that I did.
So they kind of had you on like a retainer in a way, then.
Yeah, it was what a lot of large labels did at the time. It was their way of holding on to you in case someone else courted you.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, so I understood that, and a lot of that came from going to school for music and studying business management, music management, and really seeing through the legalese when it came to those contracts.
Right. And
seeing what's really real and what's going to benefit you. And that's really where I got a lot of that education from.
And did they
so I had a great time.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. Like, that's the first, not to project this on you, but that seems, in the Navy Band and Pride, you're doing their songs. In church, you're singing their songs. This is the first time where you sort of have, you get to choose your own identity, right?
That was so incredible. Yes, it was. It gave me a chance to be Ruthie, and figure out who I wanted to be in front of people. So I wrote a lot of the key songs that you hear on my early albums while I was in New Jersey, New York area. Yes. The Full Circle album is a lot of that material is from that time period. Nice. In fact, the first 3 albums. And so, I did that for 3 years, and then decided I needed to come back home to Texas and see about my mom. And basically just, I wanted a different way of life. I needed to slow down a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, just one more kind of question on that Atlantic deal. So you kind of touched on it, but one of the things I read was they had a bit of a different vision for you, right? Which was more pop-oriented. And I'm curious because I did an episode with Jeffrey Gaines, who I absolutely adore, and that was around the same time major labels were coming after him, and it was...
Yeah, so I saw his name a lot when I was up in that area too.
And he basically said to me, like, boy, they came after me because of Tracy Chapman, right? Tracy Chapman hit, and then they wanted, people of color that sang authentic songs or whatever, right? Does that in any way fit your experience with Atlantic? Was that part of it?
Yeah, that was purely it. I was courted by Columbia Records first, but they had Tracy, and then Atlantic was, they courted me and decided to go ahead and sign me. They scooped me up, but I found out later why. It was the Tracy Chapman, Anita Baker.
Right.
They were looking at someone somewhere in between those two.
Right.
And so they scoop you up, get you into a contract. It's a formula. It's a formula that worked for a lot of these record labels. But if you're a musician and a budding songwriter like I was, and you play your cards right, you can use it to your benefit, and that's what I did. I used Atlantic. I did headshots and all of those things that you do for PR through the major labels. And then you've got the major label stamp right next to your picture, and that's what gets you in the door in a lot of those places. Yeah. Oh, she's signed with Atlantic. Oh, she's signed with Columbia. Well, we have to find some space for her here at the bitter end. So it got me into a lot of those doors that otherwise I wouldn't have gotten into. And I know Jeffrey was circulating around the same time in the same places. I do remember that.
Yeah, it's funny because
I didn't know his story behind that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that until he told me that, and I was like, wow, I bet you that was, I always think of, because I'm more of a rock guy, right? So I understood how that happened when Pearl Jam and Nirvana hit. All the labels chased those bands of that ilk, right? But I hadn't really thought of the Tracy Chapman thing as it happened there too, right? It's just business from the label perspective, right?
It is. I remember Joan Osborne was another one. She had a great band. And she'd sell out all of her concerts just before she was signed. She was in the same place. There were a lot of us.
And no regrets about not following that path, it sounds?
No, not really, no.
Good.
I come from a different, I really felt that I dug in and I did what I was there to do. But for me it came down to family. Right. My mother was ill, and I had a very short time to live, so I needed to come home. Mm-hmm. And that was the choice I made, and it turned out to be a really good choice for me. I was able to spend time with her, and actually just be her daughter again, and get a chance to come back and write about that. And it gave me another part to my story. And what I can tell on stage, and what I can sing about, and carry with me, and I think it has a lot to do with the grounded, spiritual part of my shows, is having that, knowing that I made that choice, and I can take her with me anywhere I go, and I feel good about that. I feel good about coming home and doing the right thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, and if you hadn't, boy, what a regret.
Oh, you know that. Oh, you know that. You know that death came a-knocking on my mother's door, singing, "Come on, mother, ain't you ready to go?" And my mother stooped down, buckled up her shoes, and she moved on down by the Jordan stream, and then she shouted, "Hallelujah, done my duty, got on my traveling shoes." Death came a-knocking on my sister's door, singing, "Come on, sister, ain't ya ready to go?" And my sister stooped down, buckled up her shoes, and she moved on down by the Jordan stream, and then she shouted, "Hallelujah, done my duty, got on my traveling shoes." Hey, 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 hey. You know that death came knocking on my brother's door, singing, "Come on, brother, ain't ya ready to go?" And my brother stooped down, buckled up his shoes, and he moved on down by the Jordan stream, and then he shouted, "Hallelujah, done my duty, just stooped down, buckled up his shoes, and he moved on down by the Jordan stream, and then he shouted, "Hallelujah! Done my duty. Got on my traveling shoes." You know when death comes knocking on my front door, singing, "Come on, sister, ain't ya ready to go? I'm gonna stoop right down, buckle up my shoes, gonna move on down by the Jordan stream, and then I'll shout, hallelujah, done my duty, got on my traveling shoes."
There's a record, the phenomenal Ruthie Foster, that really, is sort of makes you whole, sort of the culmination of all the steps that you're referring to here. I could be just projecting, but as a new fan, that's the way I say it. Like, this is the record where she becomes, Ruthie Foster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that in any way a fair characterization? That's sort of a culmination of your journey to that point.
Are you talking about a specific record that I put out? Or,
Yeah,
or
the phenomenal Ruthie Foster.
Yes.
That record with the, it sort of, it blends your influences. It's a good time for you. Can you talk about that record, or am I projecting all of what I just said right there?
It's a little bit of that. It was a coming home and knowing who I am.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely nailed that. I was going through a really difficult end of a relationship at the time, and it's funny how that can really bring a lot more clarity to your life too.
Right.
So, in between going to therapy, I was in the studio, therapy studio.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. I was really getting clear on what I wanted and how I wanted to present my music. So that's what you're hearing in Phenomenal Woman. It's the Phenomenal album.
Right.
So yeah, you definitely caught what I was trying to give there.
Nice. And that is the song that caught my ear, is Phenomenal Woman, because that's just, good Lord, that's incredible. And it's
thank you.
It's
a beautiful song, beautiful poem. Again, it connected me back to that being that 11, 12-year-old reading I Know What a Caged Bird Sings, and really getting into Maya Angelou, because the song is based off of Maya Angelou's poem. It was a full circle moment for me to get a chance to actually sing a song that was written by one of my favorite authors.
Yeah, how did you just reach out to her and ask for permission, or any interaction with her directly?
I did. The music was actually put together by Amy Skye, who you may have heard of. I think she's out with Olivia Newton-John now. And Amy Skye, myself, and Richie Havens, we were all on stage one weekend in Edmonton, Canada, singing. And then Amy whipped out this song based on this poem, and I thought, oh, this is beautiful. Even Richie thought it was beautiful and suggested I should record it. So, that's how I came into the song, and I got Amy's permission. But yes, I had to send a written letter to Dr. Angelou's office,
right.
And they did send a nod back that I could record it. And soon after I recorded it, I was in North Carolina, where Dr. Angelou was, where she resided, and she sent me flowers
for
my concert, which was beautiful. And for my 50th birthday, she actually signed a letter to my daughters, a book to me for my birthday. So I thought that was beautiful.
Wow, that's awesome.
I don't even know she knew I existed on the planet. That's what's funny about that.
And she's, as you characterize her, she's literally a hero of yours, right? That's got to be extra special.
I named my daughter after her. Yeah, Maya.
Nice.
I have a 5-year-old.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
I want to ask. This is maybe a hard question, but it's around this time that you really, start getting a lot of nods in terms of awards and things like that, right? Grammy nominations, all that stuff. Was your mom around for that stuff?
No, my mother passed in 1996.
Okay.
So, but I feel that she's definitely with me.
Right.
Everywhere I go. I mean, there are things that come out of my mouth when I'm talking to my daughter that's still my mother.
Right. I think that's natural, right? That's normal. That's part of life.
It's very normal.
That's funny. Can you talk a bit about, you've done a lot of collaborations outside of your own work, either just one-off performances or, recordings with, Blind Boys of Alabama, Bonnie Raitt. I'm probably forgetting the list. Allman Brothers. Are these folks heroes, and kind of what do you learn when you work with various folks like that? Does it continue your growth, your path?
Oh yeah, it does. Warren Haynes, I got a chance to tour with Warren, and that was a huge experience for me. To get a chance to be a background singer for this rock band, rock jam band, I guess you call them, but he's so much more than that. I got to know him very well on that tour, and he's branched out quite a bit since. And I think, we as musicians, when we get together like that, even with the Allman Brothers, that was a huge opportunity for me. But I think we influence each other when we get together, because Warren and I started singing, going back to him, the Grinning in Your Face together. That was the first song we ever did together. I know he had recorded it, and he saw that I did too. And we happened to be in New Orleans at the same time, and he wanted me to come over to his concert after my show and just come sing it with him. And that's really how I ended up on tour with him. We ended up doing a lot of his songs and a few of my own while we were on tour. I think it's just one of those, we influence each other. It's great when we get a chance to just be each other's fan.
So it just clicked with him at first.
Yeah, it really did. He's a really beautiful spirit, and I was in the middle of my partner was pregnant with our daughter at the time, and I knew he and his wife were trying to have a kid, so we connected in that way. Since then, I know he has a little boy. We connected on that level.
Right.
So it was great.
How about Blind Boys of Alabama? Because that's...
Oh, now you're talking. That's old school.
Yeah, because that brings you back to your gospel roots, right?
I grew up with that sound. Yeah, getting a chance to hang out with, Mr. Carter, Jimmy Carter, and the rest of the fellas in the Blind Boys of Alabama is always a good time. It's fulfilling spiritually, and we laugh and have so much of a good time together. And they remind me so much of my uncles. My grandmother had 5 uncles that sang, so that's what their sound takes me back to. And I know how to sing in that sound. Right. I grew up with that sound.
Right.
And they know that. So when we're on stage together, they sang, almost out-sang. They over-sang.
Right.
Then that pushes me to another level of singing. And we just have a flat-out good time when we're together. I love them all.
Oh, Lord, remember me when these chains get broken, set my body free. Oh, Lord, remember me.
Days get long, I call your name. Days get long, I call your name. Days get long,
feel so incredible because, again, like these are your heroes, and now they're contemporaries, and it's natural for you. It sounds right. That's how you grew up. Like, do you ever have that moment where you're like, "Holy crap! I'm just a little girl from Texas, and here I am doing this."
I do it all the time. And what, just a lot of times I'm standing there with goosebumps, and I'm hoping I'm not going to forget lyrics, which is something I did with Bonnie Raitt once, when she and I finally got a chance to do something with her, and I'm standing on stage, and there's tons of people in front of us, and we're doing that John Prine song, "Angel from Montgomery." And I totally screwed up the lyrics going into the second verse, and she was so gracious enough to just kind of lead me back around to where I need to be. And I was able to finish the song. But that's exactly what happened. I was up there, and I just got in my head about, oh, my God, I can't believe I'm standing next to Bonnie Raitt. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, I just sang the wrong verse. But,
Right.
she got me back. I'm good.
Right.
I'm here now. Yeah, I do have those moments. And those are precious to me. It just means, it lets me know I'm where I need to be. I'm where I need to be.
That's wonderful. On the last CD, I want to ask, is "Promise of a Brand New Day," and for that record, you connected with Michelle Ndegeocello. How did that partnership come about? Like, how did you cross paths with her? And
we were part of the same booking agency for a while, and it was Rosebud Agency out in the San Francisco area. And Mike Kappas, who was the head of the agency, used to come out to my shows quite a bit. And he mentioned that he had just seen Michelle one night, and she mentioned me. And I know I had been looking for some direction to go with my next CD,
right,
and looking for a producer. And he mentioned that she had produced Valerie June and a couple of other more, I guess, Americana artists.
right.
And I didn't know that at the time, so he kind of put that idea in my head of maybe looking into getting in touch with Michelle. And so she and we played phone tag for a while, and finally got together and talked and put it on our schedule to just try to get some songs recorded. Actually, she was really instrumental in getting me to write more for Brand New Day, and that was huge for me. And even dig up songs that I kind of, I had started and then just kind of left. So yeah, she was really, really gracious in giving me a lot of time and a lot of space to have my own voice.
Right.
Again. Yeah, and I love working with her. She's very accommodating in the studio, and she wanted to feature my voice more than anything. And I think she definitely accomplished that, because I felt very much at home when I was in the studio with her.
Yeah, and that's a great record. There's like a song or two I want to ask about. Like, you talk about focusing on your voice. The song "Brand New Day" is, if I'm not mistaken, it's just a vocal and a tambourine. It's very sparse.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you?
Yeah, I had written that. It was sitting on that particular song for a while, and it was in a group of tunes that I had sent to her, and she picked that one out as the song. And I think it's actually her playing the tambourine on that one. And she wanted me to just do my own voices, background voices and everything. I do have some background vocals that some I did, and mostly a couple girls she found. And she used the vocals, her band. She used a lot of the guys that she travels with for the CD, which I thought was great. And played bass. She is the bass player on this CD.
Right. Well, of course, if you have her, right?
Yeah. Right. What a time that was, though. I so enjoyed that.
Ooh, 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 lost hope, no light. Got pain, got strife. Don't need nobody to tell you how to live your life. Sometimes you hurt, you're so down you can't work. Couldn't see a better way, trusting in one more day. My heart, my mind is open wide. Forgiveness see me through. I'm free, are you? Friendships come and they go, lesson learned and so. Meanwhile, keep an eye, one day break at a time. 'Cause love heals and love lives, and time will rebuild a brand new day. You know, love heals and love lives, and time will rebuild a brand new day. Might stumble along the way, knocked down, that's okay. May have to crawl, but I say follow the promise of a brand new day. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You might sound untrue, but this song's for you. Let come what may, follow the promise of a brand new day. 'Cause love heals and love lives, and time will reveal a brand new day. You know, love heals and love lives, and time will reveal a brand new day.
How do you find inspiration for these songs with her?
Yeah, it's really just about living. You know, like, you caught me today nesting. Today I'm home after being on the road for a week. And so I'm finding my downtime. I get a chance to do a little yoga and meditate. So I'm having that time to just reflect. And I'm pulling the guitar out here in just a few minutes, as soon as I'm off the phone here. And then there's that get up and go, and you're chasing the next gig, and you're dragging your guitar across O'Hare and trying to figure out where your next gate is, and you're on for the next 7 days. It's a yin and yang. It's that mix that blues and gospel does for me. That gives me those stories and gives me something to write about. That's really important to just sit down and reflect on what that means. And that's what you hear in a lot of the tunes that I write, and tunes that I tend to pick and record. I get some flack for recording so many covers, but I'm okay with that. I like doing tunes that mean something to me. They don't have to be tunes that I've written myself. There's just something about really plugging into a song that's written well.
Right.
That's important to me to record.
Yeah. And
after all, I'm the one who has to be out here singing them over and over again.
Right. So it's got to mean something to you, right? You can't just, and that's an interesting thing too, because it's, it's also you said yin and yang, because it's also the technical learning in terms of craft when you went to college, and routine when you were in the Navy, mixed with the yang of feel, right? Mm-hmm. So it's got to be a mixture of that as well, I would gather.
Yeah, that's in every aspect of what I do, from the time I leave my front door to when I'm on stage. There's a yin and yang that comes there. Well, I've got to plug into what I know,
right.
But I'm bringing a lot of my the last my last 20 hours into that 90 minutes too. I may be tired, and you'll hear that. When I'm tired, that's when you hear me go grounded. That's when I'm giving all of it, because I let go when I'm tired.
Right.
Yeah, and when I'm gung ho and I'm rested, that's a different energy too, and I use that. But a lot of that I've been taught. A lot of it I've been taught, and then some is just about doing it for 20 years.
Right.
And it has been that long for me. Actually, it's been 30 if you want to count my preteen years. Yeah.
Wow. So how about I guess two kind of closing questions. One is, have you started working on the next record? You said you're going to pick up the guitar after this call. Have you started writing?
I am. Actually, we just finished. We're waiting for it to come back from master. And so we have a new record coming in the spring.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's tentatively called Joy Comes Back. And it's about the last couple of years. Well, it's been 3 years, I guess, since I released the record, almost, by the time this comes out. My journey since then. I've come out of another relationship and I'm learning a new norm of how to be a parent, a distant parent, but still, present in my daughter's life and keep my work life going, my career moving forward, and just learning how to be. I'm learning how to be by myself. I'm learning how to step into the next phase of who I am, being in my 50s now. Right. And this album will reflect all of that.
Nice.
And another one I'm really proud of. I think folks will like it. It's not as bluesy as my previous albums because I went deep, and I've got some gospel on there. Derek Trucks is on there doing some gospel with me.
Great.
And we got Willie Weeks from, Willie's from everywhere. Eric Clapton to Donny Hathaway. He's playing bass on there. So I'm really proud of this one. I took my time with it.
Right.
It took about 9-8 months to do. So yeah, tell folks to get ready for that one.
Nice. Who's producing? Who produced that?
I used a local producer here in Austin. His name is Dan Barrett.
Okay.
Barrett. And I got to know Dan by doing a lot of independent projects. He has a studio around the corner from me, and I wanted to stay with someone I'm comfortable with on this journey, someone I know, I've worked with before, who's able to lend his ear, his engineering skills, and even his musician skills. He plays every instrument under the sun.
Awesome.
To my feel and where I'm at in my life. Because Dan's been there through all of this with me, too.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. And then the last question is it's a bit of a full circle question, right? Going back to, where you started singing in church and tradition. Are you passing that on to your daughter?
I am. I'm trying to, a little bit at a time. I'm not,
right.
Throwing it at her, but she came here a music lover. She couldn't help herself. I used to sing to her all the time when she was in the womb. So she's she loves acting. She's very social. She's the opposite of Mama. She's so opposite of me. She's not shy. She's fine with just singing a song in front of you, and incredibly social, and just a beautiful spirit. My little lighthouse is what I call her.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and talk about your career. Like I said, I'm a new fan, but I'm a devoted fan, and I'm looking forward to the new record. Thank you, Eric. People can find you online, RuthieFoster.com, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they can. And there's a Facebook page, too. I love it when I get Facebook love. So we try to keep our videos updated. And, just tune in. That's how you can keep up with me. Let me know where I'm playing.
Right on. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And hopefully I will see you down the road at some point.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Thank you.
Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute, built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them They think I'm telling lies. Oh, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride in my steps, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. Oh, I'm a woman. Oh, baby, that's me. I walk into a room just as cool as you please. To a man, the fellas stand and they fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me like a hive of honeybees. Oh, I say it's in the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing of my waist, the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm a woman. Yeah. Oh, baby, that's me. It's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the right of my breast, the grace of my Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about, I have to talk real loud. But when you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. Oh, I see it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hands, the need of my care. 'Cause I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm a woman, yeah. Baby, that's me. It's in the palm of my hands and the leaf of my care. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal woman. Baby, oh baby, 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 that's me. That's me. Yeah.
Thanks again for listening to this conversation with Ruthie Foster. Hopefully you'll go check out some of her work or go see her live because she is incredible. That's an understatement. You can find more of her work at ruthiefoster.com, and you can find more Pods and Sods on our website, which is podsodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Prancer, on Dancer, on Comet, on Cupid. But yeah, just Google Pods and Sods and you'll find all kinds of goodies. So, and if you do, leave a kind word or two. That's always very much appreciated. And yeah, thanks again for listening. And I will leave you with some words of wisdom that I always close with from Mr. Bill Hicks. Thank you.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut him up. We have a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. This has to be real. It's just a ride. But we always kill those good guys who try and tell us that. You ever notice that? And let the demons run amok? But it doesn't matter, because it's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love. The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your door, buy guns, close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one. Here's what we can do to change the world right now, to a better ride. Take all that money we spend on weapons and defense each year and instead spend it feeding, clothing, and educating the poor of the world, which it would many times over, not one human being excluded, and we can explore space together, both inner and outer, forever in peace.